one.
Are you gonna give me orders?
Today, we're getting ready to go into Trap versus MaNa. So the PvP that is, as Wardy said, the worst of the matches, only because it's the mirror matchup that we have. It's a PvP, right?
But otherwise, I don't like PvP as much as the TVT, right? Really, right?
Yes, well, everyone's looking forward to the TVT. But these two players, I mean, fantastic stories, right? You have Trap, who, I mean, maybe he's not like, the finalist like Jim and I would want him to be, but like he is just a master of PvP. And then you have MaNa, who is of course TeamLiquid, TSL Magic, right? And looking fantastic in the PvP matchups, specifically taking down players that we wouldn't expect him to, like Parting and Showtime. But now he's facing off against one of the master PvPers in Trap. This might be a little more difficult.
Yeah, and Trap's PvP has definitely been strong lately, taking some wins off of Zest, I believe, recently in a tournament I was casting. But it is still the usual PvP madness of you get onto one base, you stay on one base. We've seen a few more expansions here or there, but that's, it's still not that kind of like macro game you kind of like to see, and I feel like that always gives any underdog a bit of a stronger chance of making some magic happen, especially when they've got the TeamLiquid magic on their side. As one of our players does here in the bottom left side. A red Protoss player is TeamLiquid's man.
In the top right, as the blue Protoss player for Jin Green Wings, he is Trap. A little fanfare they all get. That's cute.
I like
yeah. So I don't know. I guess this is why I cast all the PvPs, is because Wardy's choosing all like the TVZs and the PvTs. Man, we already went over that, I guess.
I only cast TVZ. It's the only matchup, and sometimes the Zergs somehow lose. How we don't know. It's still being figured out, but then I have to cast a TVP. But that's it. You take me away from my Terran matchup, so you put me on a mirror, and I'm like,
What way is up and what way is down? No, Wardy, I think you can handle it. I think you got this PvP, man. I think you've cast enough games overall to know that, well, you can't really guess a PvP, so why even bother trying, right? Like, let's just watch it unfold. Watch who places down pylons and then doesn't actually use the pylons. Who wants to be super cheesy and who wants to actually try and play a macro game. I mean, who would ever do that in PvP? Well, typically not MaNa, I can tell you that much.
Yes.
He is an aggressive PvPer.
He actually loves the proxy robo, especially. He's really been a fan of that as of late, so I expect to see that at least once for him in this series, if not a little bit more often. Maybe depends how many games we actually get in the overall series here. I feel like that's definitely one to watch for. We're going to see MaNa going to hide a Stargate, I guess, over in the corner of his base to begin, so that's already MaNa showing us a little bit of what he wants to get up to. And it is indeed going to be a Stargate dropping down. So Stargate to get us going.
Yeah. Trap, not using that pylon. Again, that's something that's very common in PvP. Just to get the initial panic of your opponent, right? Sometimes it's funny, though. Like, sometimes your opponent doesn't actually scout. As common as it is, as a Protoss player, to scout in, like, almost all matchups, right? Sometimes it doesn't happen, and it's like, I've actually seen them only scout around 4 proxies, and not even their opponent's main base, just assuming that's going to be, like, half information anyways. Very quickly into the robo follow-up here. Trap is going for, a couple of adepts, yes, but he is going for that Nexus, and no doubt the robo going to follow this up once he figures out what's going on, has the minerals to do so. It is Phoenix first.
Yeah, so Phoenix into that robo facility, so definitely feels like MaNa wants to get a bit aggressive. He'll let the adepts in here, and that's obviously pretty rough because even if you try and wall off or anything, even if your own adepts are here, these adepts just target down probes, and MaNa actually just doesn't have a way to clean this up, so he's just going to lose a lot of probes. Obviously, Trap will not shade out from this, and he's just going to get probe after probe, and this is really bad for MaNa. Already losing 8 workers as Trap is going to get one final one, and then, he's even going to get to the corner to see the Phoenix production too, so he gets everything possible with these adepts. He gets Scout, he gets a lot of damage done, and this really hurts MaNa a lot. MaNa who wants to go into maybe like a bit of a Phoenix-based attack, right? Maybe you get across the map and you try and fight with those Phoenix lifting and everything supporting on the ground. Try and bust down this Nexus. That's so much more difficult to do now that you can't really afford everything you want to try and afford.
Right, it's gonna look really, I mean, honestly, just kind of lame from here on out. Like, it's not gonna have any impact. I mean, he wasn't really setting up for like too strong. It felt like of a push anyways. 2 gateways, no proxy pylon even for slow warp-ins. It just was supposed to be a surprise for the Phoenix to control the game. Eventually pick off so many probes that you do get that lead, or use it to pick off those expensive units like the sentries to actually push. But neither option is like really that appealing. He's down 10 workers. His Nexus only just started. Attacking is not going to work out with the limited army that he has. And the Phoenix, well, yes, they might grab a couple of probes, more than a couple over the length of the game. Nothing's really going to make up for being 10 probes down for how many minutes? 3, 4?
Yeah.
Long time.
I mean, it just feels like forever, right? Usually, if this was like one-base PvP, man, it's like, well, at least I catch back up, right? Fairly quickly, and yes, it hurts, but, at least I get back in the game. But the fact it's 2-base, Trap just goes all the way up to, 44, 46 workers, and MaNa's always going to be behind, and Trap's just set him for the long game already. Forge on the way down, so that's going to be huge for him, because that obviously gives him a good timing to work with. You can get those +1 attack upgrades rolling, that will give you an advantage on +2 attack. It just opens so many windows in the game where MaNa is going to have to play extremely defensively to overcome that upgrade disadvantage. And if that's the case, Trap can just, take a faster 3rd base, right? He can just expand. He can be a bit greedier behind these time windows where MaNa has to build a lot of shield batteries and defensive structures that wouldn't help him punish Trap from expanding. So really pushes MaNa into a very difficult corner here. And again, he just doesn't really have enough Phoenix to get his way back into the game either, right? There's no way to really kill a bunch of probes to make this back up. And even if he did now, he'd be evening out the worker count at best. So it's a tough start for our Team Liquid player.
It's worse than tough, unfortunately, for MaNa. It's downright impossible. I was going to say, it seems like the only option here is to go for those disruptors.
Yeah.
Really mix up things, of course, do something different than your opponent because he's going to be ahead, but then also give you that comeback unit, the one's going to get the explosive, literally, results of even disruptor drops, killing probes would be probably something more than the Phoenix have really been able to do, as they even lost a friendly face, I guess, earlier on. They were down to 2. He's going to rebuild to 3, but they haven't really been doing very much. And I guess that also makes sense because he has the Phoenix. He's constantly scouting. He knows the army positioning. He knows if his opponent is going for Stargates as well to respond to any disruptors, and they can get into a weird war there. But if it's going to be Colossus, which he starts out the Colossus, that unit is not as much of a comeback unit. That is size up very easily and still get a good concave on and destroy, especially if you're going to be up to Archons, which of course Trap is.
Yeah, it's very tough, right? Because the Colossus is almost like, I want to take a 3rd base and defend my choke point, and this is a nice catch from MaNa, at least able to not get the Prism kill. Oh, he actually does get it just at the end there. I thought that was going to recall away safely, but apparently not. But yeah, that's actually really nice. Close this down. Trap was already on another one. Apparently he wants 2 warp prisms here, so one at the front, micro, and warp-ins, and of course then you could harass in the main base at the same time. The prism was important to get those Archons out of the base as well, because otherwise they are kind of trapped in there. But yeah, the Colossus really feels like it relies a lot on, Trap pushing in, and that is kind of what Trap is setting up to do, but what stops Trap just taking a 3rd base behind this? What stops Trap just, getting set up for the next stage of this game already is these Archons come in, he is going to start fighting in. Well, the Colossus obviously doesn't have range either, right? So it can't even sit very far back in all of this. I think the first disruptor is now done. We'll have to see if that can make some magic happen for MaNa, because otherwise, he's in a lot of trouble.
His first disruptor shot gets a pretty good shot, but, imagine this Colossus was another disruptor, maybe. We are talking about a potential comeback here, but I don't know. This Colossus did live. 3 shield batteries is a heck of a thing, and the choke that Trap was working against, it was a very bold blitz from our blue Protoss to push into a defensive 2-base Protoss with what he had, but it looks like it was working out well. The Phoenix come in, take care of the reinforcements, which was pretty important. That second Warp Prism didn't actually come into effect until a little bit too late. We see it in the middle of the map now. I don't think it'll actually continue forward against Phoenix that are still alive. I mean, yes, there are Archon drops, but you're playing a dangerous game for sure. Trap probably, as you were saying, was better off going for a third Nexus. But I actually really don't blame him for trying to push in like that. That looked like it was going to go okay, especially before the Phoenix came in to take care of his Warp Prism.
Yeah, there's just a couple moments, right? I think the moment when the Warp Prism dies is obviously quite important. But also the Disruptor shot, like you said, was very good initially, right? It got a good chunk of Stalkers, and that really swayed the tide to start allowing MaNa to properly push this back. And now MaNa, okay, he's got Zealots in the main base. He can't really afford to take any more worker damage, and now it's going to pull him apart a little bit. Although the Disruptor gets 4 Zealots. It's a good catch.
Yeah, these Zealots are actually a big deal. The Archons are now just supporting the Zealots, really, and they just suddenly appeared, killing a couple probes. That their MaNa finally got even a little bit of a probe lead. Okay, more than a couple as the Archons get into the natural. Ouch, 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 ouch. MaNa just doesn't have enough units to actually split apart here. Unfortunately, didn't take care of the Warp Prism. Disruptor shot actually helping the Archons a little bit as they're recalled out pretty quickly there from Trap. Trap still not wanting to play a passive, like, okay, I'll just continue to get ahead type of game and going for these moves. I mean, maybe it backfires, but in this case, he just got another 18 probe lead, plus the whole beginning of this game where he was ahead by 10. Like, he is absolutely still in the commander seat here. But, I mean, MaNa at least has some chance.
I feel like this is kind of what he wanted to do initially as well, right? Because he was already so quick on the second prism that he wanted to go to 2 prisms. It's just nothing really synced up in the first attack. Imagine he has a group of Zealots in the main base during that first fight, probably dealing some good damage. Yeah, he killed like 10 workers, but MaNa came out okay. This second attack was so much more successful because MaNa is so reliant on the Disruptor, the Colossus, and the Phoenix, and you just can't split those up, like you said, easily enough to really deal with different points of pressure that came MaNa's way. So now, we obviously just saw those probes dying. That's going to be hard to overcome. Remember, Trap always has the +1 attack upgrade over this. And now he's got that Phoenix count, so he's going to nullify the Disruptor count. He kind of nullifies the Phoenix count of MaNa as well. And basically, half of MaNa's army is just now beaten out because Trap has more Phoenix.
Yeah, the fact that he has more Phoenix is, I mean, he's obviously able to afford to do many things at once with his economy. Yeah, that's certainly taking away MaNa's potential comeback here. By having a different composition, there is always that chance, especially one that has a lot of splash damage. But the more that they even up each other's composition, the less likely it looks for MaNa to win down still like 20 workers and down a Nexus. MaNa could do well to add in a couple of Archons here, and he is adding a Templar Archives. That is his biggest gas bank, but eventually he has to take a third base, which would be substantially later than Trap. So the other option is to push, but we know that isn't really a realistic option either. So what exactly does MaNa do?
Sits here and probably slowly dies off CG.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, he maybe has, I was going to say maybe he has like 1 push in him with like Colossi, maybe, but then Colossi moving out on a map and you get surrounded, suddenly you lose that splash damage effect, and that's the only thing I've got for him, though. Like, he has to just go, but by the time he gets across, he might even be attacking into +2 attack. He's actually just not going to lose the Prism as the Phoenix go and fight the other Phoenix. But of course, at any point, this is now a danger, right? Those Phoenix flying in, they're only really held off by the Archon and the Stalkers, so they are just going to sit and wait, and during the fight, they're going to get major damage done. They're going to shut down the Prism right away. They're going to be able to come in and target down the Colossi and put a lot of damage onto them. And that's all going to be very important in amongst this next fight. For Trap, who's already sending his army down here, this means he can come in from the right side and really just engage in an open area, which is exactly what Trap's army wants to do with those charge lots against the Colossi. And here it goes. Zealots charge in. Disruptor shot in the background is good, but at the end of the day, these Phoenix are in on top of the Colossi, and that's just going to be GG from MaNa, and Trap will take a game number 1.
Well, we know that game was kind of lost when the Adepts got in. So we were watching a very slowly dying European Protoss there. It was a good idea to go into the Disruptor, and how it hold around his natural was good. But the follow-up Zealots were also really the... if the Adepts didn't just cut his throat right there, then the Zealots did in the main base. Way too much damage to recover from, even if he had depended solely on Disruptors, because, well, Trap had done the safe thing and gone into his own Phoenix. So I would say masterful control of PvP from Trap, but it really was so much more about just probe losses in the early game. The simple mistake that is deadly in this mirror matchup, letting Adepts into your main base.
You just can't let that happen. It's as simple as that, right? We talk about it day in and day out in PvP, and it is the one thing that will just end a game, especially if you have nothing to clean them up, right? It's already bad if they get in and they get like 3 or 4 probes. But these got in and they got 9 workers, and that is just, especially when MaNa is trying to, be aggressive off one base, it seems, traps expanding. It just gives that trap expansion, so much leeway to get up without any pressure at all. And then, you've got faster expansion. That's a lead in itself. So not only was it bad how it happened, but obviously it was even worse for just the way that it played out with the builds that were going on as well. So I'd say unfortunate for MaNa, but at the same time, right, it's one of the key checks in PvP. You just have to always be in that position where you have to keep a probe at the front. You have to be ready to drop a shield battery at all times. If you can't do that, you can't play top level PvP because you just die to your adepts every time. So hopefully it's something MaNa can look at and fix, and we'll be able to go into game number 2 of this matchup.
Yeah, it's a bit like those, initial Lings in ZVZ, but even deadlier. And letting Lings kill a queen, but adepts can kill 10 probes. You don't really recover from that. Especially because there's not like a ton of... I mean, there's a lot of decision making in PvP, but it's just like 10 probes down, like all of the decisions become correct for the person who did the damage. So it's just something, you're right. You cannot let happen at this level, and usually would not happen as well. I will add that. Like, I do not expect MaNa to make the same mistake, although Trap might try and capitalize again on it. We'll see. Game number 2 in the top left for Team Liquid. This is MaNa.
And rocking out in the bottom right, we do have the blue Protoss player from Jin and Green Wings. It is Trap.
Let's not forget MaNa also started off with not just the adepts killing a bunch of his probes, but also for a not cheesy necessarily, but certainly aggressive one-base Stargate. Can sometimes be difficult to get away with because scouting is so prevalent. That probe gets in there and stays until your first units come out. The one-base Stargate can be a little awkward. He did kind of get away with it if the adepts didn't get through, but we know MaNa is an aggressive Protoss player. He was going to be aggressive last game until it very much so was cut short. What does he do here? I still expect something aggressive, but he's got to really change things up and really take away any chance of adepts killing him.
Yeah. The good thing, though, is, right, that's very easily done. Because this is something that MaNa does in every PvP. It's not like he has to make a complete change to his game plan or his style. He just has to say, well, I lost that game simply because I made one, simple error. And well, that's a very easy way to kind of, a very frustrating way, I should say, to lose a game. At least for the next game in the series, it's not like you have to completely reconfigure your play style to maybe match up against your opponent who was just so good against what you did in the first game. This was just MaNa fell behind, so hopefully he can put that behind him and going into game 2, really show us what he's got planned for this PvP, and really make a much better game out of it from there.
Now, let's not forget that he got here off of his PvP against some very good players. So we are not expecting Trap to just steamroll him. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes he is the better PvP, or sometimes PvP just some people say it's a roll the dice, right? It's a bit of just chance involved. Sometimes it does end in a 3-0 rather. I'll give it that, but I don't think we're expecting that to happen. MaNa at least taking a game, if not actually a contender for the series, even though Trap is good as he is. We also have to account for just how, PvP can be on cross-server play as well, which is something that I think might be trying to take advantage of at some point. MaNa's going to go ahead and proxy that Stargate and send out some units just to catch the adepts, give them advance notice. But it's really about that Stargate, which Trap is trying to look for a little bit. Or is that his own? Proxy? Well, he's getting a Nexus, so probe, continue. Okay, so
he is going to build a pylon. I mean, just a pylon on the map for later in the game and warp-ins. Obviously, it's still weird that the probe is still down there, right? Instead of continuing to scout around, especially. Because that's information that you'll usually be gaining all the way throughout this without any issues. So, yeah, I'm with you. Kind of a little funky pylon timing. I don't think he's necessarily really looking to hide something, but the probe is still there. So, yeah, it's maybe, I don't know. It's a weird one.
I mean, you wouldn't set down a proxy pylon and then a Twilight Council and a Dark Shrine. Like, everything else he's doing looks like a normal build here, guys. So Nexus and then Robo, Shield Battery, very protective, especially against when it could be a Stargate, and that's actually what's happening. The Shield Battery seems to be in front, not in the main base. This could get a little dicey because we actually have an Oracle this time, not going into that Phoenix like last. And that is a pretty open main base right now, especially with Trap sending his units out forward to deny scouting. This could be a lot of damage. This could be the revenge of last game for MaNa.
Yeah, it's going to be a recall. It's nicely done by Trap. Wow, and that's going to put him perfectly in position to deal with this. 3 sentries and the Stalker is now. MaNa sees this one probe, and he's going to respect that. Trap probably realizes what's up. He did end up seeing the Stargate, so saw it in time, was able to recall. That's what you gain from that continued scouting, as these Adepts will come up this time. MaNa will not let them in, but then the Adepts come in and they can one-shot sentries here. Not the energy for Guardian Shield, and if you Guardian Shield, they at least survive the first round of Adept volleys, which probably means sentry number 2 doesn't go down. But no Guardian Shield available, and that means that these Adepts are going to get in, lose one, and then get out. Okay, they shade back into the Oracle, so you'll lose another one, but for the sentry kills, this is absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah, sentry kills, 200 gas gone. That's continued hallucinations gone for at least a little while longer. There is no follow-up from Trap, so that we're worried not necessarily about Force Fields or Guardian Shield, but it is an investment worth remaking. And just a nice kill for Trap, using his Adepts as much as you would expect, really, unless they actually got into the main, which MaNa was definitely on point this game, but not letting happen. Otherwise, continued scouting for both players. I mean, MaNa with 2 Oracles doesn't necessarily need Stand Phoenix, even though he's already used one. He will scout what his opponent's doing. The presence of a Forge for both players does indicate a bit more of a macro game. And you can try and just, be the one that chronos more on your probes, I guess. more economy, right? Get the perfect saturation faster, which Trap's actually pretty much at already.
It's going to be a Twilight Council on either side. It really is just matched in every way, right? There's like a slight advantage here or there, and like upgrades a few seconds ahead, or the Twilight's a few seconds ahead, but overall the game plan really seems to be very similar. Of course, MaNa still has those Oracles, so he can continue to scout, maybe look for extra damage. I mean, it does mean that Trap is just a little bit ahead elsewhere on certain numbers of units and so on. Now these Oracles get in, they're going to find 3 probes, make that 4, and that's the sort of damage that you want to pick up here, because now MaNa up 7 workers, and that can be just the difference in this game. If you stay up 3 or 4 workers every now and then, it really can just tilt things in your favor. So let's see. As Trap only has 4 Adepts in this Prism, looks like he's going to split them up, 2 in the main and 2 to the natural or so. Try and do some more damage. As he gets in, he's going to find 1 probe already. So Trap just trying to find his own damage here, and these Adepts will make their way around. And not doing much in this main base yet, finally getting a kill.
Yeah, good decision not to shade. I think it's worth the kills that are going to get there in the main base. Natural, not going as good there because just the Shield Battery was kind of helping a little bit. But pretty good Adept attack. I mean, sometimes you see that War Prism be such a problem that the investment of a Phoenix, if you actually have a Stargate that's still powered, might be worth it, but MaNa's not going to bother. So it just takes the loss of 6 workers for the 4 his Oracles got, plus any continued damage they might get. Exactly. And constant scouting once again. MaNa goes into +2. He's going to finish up charge before any fight happens. Trap, either a little bit later to +2. Yeah, he's getting his Nexus first, it looks like. Or I was going to say, like, maybe he's just not getting it, but he's getting a Nexus and then going for a push. I mean, if he's actually going to push with this, no, it's just a drop. We need to see that +2. We need to see that +2 started. Like, drop to drop, macro to macro. MaNa might be behind the 3rd Nexus, but he's going to be substantially ahead in that +2.
+2 is massive. It's really one of those things where you just take the lead and you keep the lead, as that Phoenix will not get out. I'm not sure why he necessarily wants the Phoenix, apart from maybe just some scouting.
War Prism, I think. Just dealing with the War
Prism as well. Yeah, that's always a good call as well. It's not like it's a major need, though, right? So it's not like it's like, oh no, I'm never going to get this Phoenix, and now I'm going to lose the game. He can actually send his own Prism over there and power it up for a moment or two if that's what he would like. Is right now, okay, this is a little bit awkward. He's going to recall over the dead airspace. The Archons just don't get into the right position, and he will in the end cancel that Phoenix as well. So a nice getaway from MaNa, and good shutdown from Trap, obviously.
Really nice. I mean, Archon drop is better than a Mortal drop. But sometimes, the immortal drop happens faster because you actually have the immortals faster. But it would have not been something you really wanted to tango with if he's being chased like that. So the recall decision, definitely the better one. Now he has it back at home to help the juggle because Trap is absolutely pushing. He might have a third Nexus, but not really saturating it right, not building any more probes, and definitely not going into that +2. But unfortunately, this lack of +2, I mean, it ideally hits before MaNa's is also done, which I guess it is, but only by a couple of seconds. Can MaNa buy the time necessary to have that +2 and have these shield batteries? This actually might be the perfect timing for Trap as he moves in here. A couple of hallucinations as well, and no observer to scout that, I believe. So wasted shots on hallucinations, potentially. This is a lot of juggling going down for MaNa. Trap needs to get on top of his own juggle as well. Stalker's coming from the north side too. Guardian shields are all gone. Shield battery's about to finish, but so many units left over for Trap that was the perfect timing.
Do you think he actually wins the game because of the hallucinations? Because I really feel like I look at these and they took so much damage in all of this. I don't know if Trap would have broken him if the hallucinations didn't take so much of the damage. Even now, this hallucination might go down before any of the other Archons. And Trap just continues into the natural expansion. Has a bit too much here for MaNa to deal with. These Archons are just that little bit too powerful. And MaNa is going to lose the Prism. He loses micro potential. And that was the timing. That's the way you beat MaNa. In that second, or that moment right there, GG's, and Trap is going to take a 2-0 lead in our first match of the day.
The Observer was brought back. I don't think it was there from the start, though, because, the Archons, I mean, it's a bit funny how hallucinations work, right? You can know that they're hallucination. You can see them literally being made, right? They just suddenly pop out of thin air, and yet your AI will actually not accommodate for it unless you have the Observer. So I do think that they provided some nice frontline buffer. And it just made the army look more intimidating. But hitting before the +2, hitting before the shield batteries, I would say as well. If there's 3 shield batteries, that might have been enough time to buy for the +2. Maybe MaNa doesn't even really engage. He continues just pulling back, right? But and I actually thought that Trap was about to mess up his timing, man. That was very close to it. Although I think his army was better. Just imagine. +2 and shield batteries. That is such a big difference.
Well, MaNa down 0-2. Now really is the time to, if he's going to bring out the proxies and the aggression. There was a proxy Stargate last game. If there's really a time to drop that proxy robo, the build he really loves, this would be the time. This would be when you do it. So now or never, MaNa. Let's see what we've got as we jump into Nightshade, map 3 of this series. What are you thinking, ZG? What do you think we see from MaNa?
I mean, he could try the proxy robo, but in the same way that your opponent's kind of feeling the cross server, you could absolutely as well. And it's definitely more onus on the offensive, right? To actually do the micro and make things work in the defender. So that might actually be substantially limiting MaNa's choices here, the way he usually plays. His Oracle micro seemed good enough, though. His proxy Oracle was not bad, but I guess he's not going to... I'm going to say he doesn't do substantial cheese. No proxy robo this game, although Nightshade can have some really tricky spots for it. But that is potentially the final map. In the top left, up 2-0, he is Trap.
And Rockin in the bottom right needs to take a map to stay alive in the TSL in a bracket. It is Team Liquid's map.
You got the quick intro right there, man.
It's don't even know how to describe it. Just zoom in, zoom out, super quick.
Mapu, where's the twist? The hurricane. Yeah, do it. You can do some fancy stuff there. Anyways, we do have Mapu on the Observer production, I guess. Yeah, once again, so that's pretty sick to have. And the last PvP, perhaps. MaNa,
What?
I'm sure he's coming in here thinking that he could do pretty well, but to be down 0-2, that's always a tricky one. Gives a lot of chances for Trap to be the one on aggressive stance, right, and do whatever he wants, thinking, I have games to lose, kind of.
It's a tough one, right? Because I feel like first game, you're kind of like, oh man, I can't believe I gave up one of my chances like this. And the second game does kind of feel like he's all right. He's up on the 3 bases and feels like he's almost there at that defense. He's got that plus. He actually gets the +2 up, not for the start of the fight, but during the very early stages of the fight. And it's still just not enough. And it's so close, because if he holds there, he's in a great spot. And it's just, he's so close to maybe making this 1-1. And I mean, just imagine how different it could have been if he didn't let the Adepts in the first game as well, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like, you say he comes in thinking he can do better here, and I think the games absolutely show he has potential to do better as well. It's just the tiniest little things that are now falling apart for him and allowing Trap to really take advantage, Trap just eking out the advantages and eking out the victories so far. Really hoping MaNa can pull it together for Game 3, because I actually think MaNa's PvP has been really sick lately. I think it has been very impressive, and we said this about Traps at the start as well, but and just look at MaNa's run in this very tournament, right? Parting, Showtime. Those guys are also amazing at PvP, so to take down those guys with pretty reasonable confidence, yeah, it really speaks for itself.
Yeah, MaNa's runs in a lot of qualifiers are actually based off of PvP. Just Europe is a lot of really good PvP players, Protoss players in general. So we shouldn't be doubting his prowess in the matchup, but it is just one of those days, perhaps. He gets his pylon found out, which is not really that important necessarily because it's not being used as like a Stargate proxy, although he is getting a 1-base Stargate. But that is information for Trap, right? Which is always bad. More information, you're going to be much better off in the PvP. And yeah, your point's like really right. Like MaNa made a pretty clumsy mistake in the first game. That sucks to lose like that. Second game, you actually get a chance, get a macro game, you barely lose. That happens, but being down 0-2 in a PvP when your opponent really can just like be the bully here and be like, I can do whatever I want. That is scary stuff. Now, speaking of whatever you want, he's actually going to go for a 6 Adept attack. Kind of like awkwardly, the Stalkers come in, see the... Oh, it was 6 Adepts. I miscounted the shade, sorry. It was 4 Adepts. But they kind of awkwardly find the Adepts there with the really immediate warping of Stalkers. And, well, that's going to be a recall, which, I mean, it's better than losing the fight like he was going to pretty hard. But he did... Now, yeah, put himself in a position where this could be a little bit testy to hold. He's getting a unit from that Stargate, which can help out against the Adepts, and it was 5. So maybe it was 6. Maybe I didn't miscount. But he's got to actually not just wall off. He's actually got to have units in position, because 6 or 5 Adepts in this case, right? 5 Adepts can bust through the building shield battery. But Trap not getting into a prime position for that, choosing not to go for it. Just one quick cancel of the shield battery, and that is that. So, I mean, Trap opened with 6 Adepts and not getting very much from it. I mean, they should get something later, right? But yeah, the longer this game goes, the more that those Adepts are like, oh, were they a worthwhile investment compared to the faster Twilight Council or Robo or what have you. In this case, compared to the Oracles. Double Oracles coming out now with Trap not being aware of their the tech options, actually. His Pylon's going to scout it, which is fantastic to give him at least some heads up. But 2 Oracles, those probes are going down very fast. There are not enough Stalkers to stop this.
Flies in, already going to get a few of these right from the start. Not even the shield battery really in range, so it didn't even matter when the Oracles went out of sync. So MaNa gets in, he kills 8 probes. It feels like MaNa takes a good lead in the game for the first time in the series, maybe even. Like a real significant worker lead, at least, as we just have a few Adepts still shading around here or there from Trap trying to deal damage. MaNa's deflected that damage well, and he still has the Oracles alive, of course. Trap is just coming across the map, but is already going to have an activation on that Immortal barrier. He loses 1 Oracle, but he does get a Sentry, so it takes away some of the aggressive force fields that can come down from Trap to accompany this attack. As MaNa will add on the shield battery and get ready to defend at the front, but the Blink that isn't quite ready.
These Adepts not doing very much yet, can add into the fight, but the Oracle is really putting Trap into a difficult position. Oh, no battery at the front. That is going to hurt a lot. The battery in the main base doesn't really help against this many Adepts, but the Stalker is responding to that. He's going to lose access to his natural. The force field's too good. The shield batteries have to be canceled. I thought he was in a good position with the amount of units he had, but letting those Adepts in, just as tragic as that first game.
Yeah, I mean, he's waiting for Blink right now to be able to get back to his natural expansion, but you know what, ZG, that's going to be too late. This Nexus is already going to be dead, and again, it's a little thing from MaNa. Just as it starts to look good for him, he slips up, he lets the Adepts in, and the next thing you know, he's down an entire base.
That is going to be hard to recover from. He does immediately slap another Nexus down, but the good news is his probes didn't actually die as much as they thought they would in the main base against all those Adepts. The Stalkers, were responding to that. And now he does have Blink. So he has a different composition that might be able to get him some victories here, as well as a very harass-oriented composition. Still has an Oracle left alive as well. So he might be able to do some pickoffs that can really help and keep Trap, wary, not just like busting out a third Nexus and probing all day long. And already grabbing a couple Stalkers here. Maybe getting out with all of his left alive. Nicely done.
Nice. That's how MaNa has to get back into this. That's the advantage that he has in the game, and it's the one thing he can really use to his favor. I mean, to the point where Trap even says, you know what, I see all you can do is blink Stalker. I'm going to go blink myself. Give myself that ability to help deal with it. That's not something you see all the time. Oftentimes in this position, later Twilight Council here from Trap, you might just say, oh, well, I'll just go for my Zealots and we'll get the charge up. He actually wants to play like a good amount of Stalkers himself, because I think he just accepts this is going to be really, really annoying otherwise. So that's kind of interesting to see. As he will go, we'll see MaNa already going into Ward Charge. He will not just stick on pure Blink Stalkers, as now he gets a force field off, and, well, the Immortals can come down to the low ground, so this shouldn't be as disastrous as it was when MaNa was force fielded into his main base. And Trap actually makes that look pretty easy. Not as scary as we are about to make it out to be, I feel.
Yeah, that would actually looked really sick, but then a couple force fields from Trap, and the availability of his War Prism. That would have been a lot more awkward, I think, if it was trying to get some harassment done, which would have been very bold of Trap to do, but or it had died earlier or something like that. So that was actually, that kind of turned around on MaNa a little bit with those force fields. Those good pickoffs there from Trap. Very good handling of the situation, but I think you're right about that blink. He knows what would happen if he let this continue on without being able to really get on the map himself, which would mean theoretically, MaNa gets a faster third, he's able to get the economy advantage, and then barely, mixes in enough units to hold against any kind of all-in Trap does. In this case, well, Trap easily takes on the Stalkers with his own Blink Stalkers and is doing an attack, absolutely. MaNa has had no time to really get an economic advantage, in fact, being significantly disadvantaged with the Nexus snipe. The only advantage he has right now is the charge, and a handful of charge lots. He's trying to get to an Archon, which he might just barely have time to do, but 4 Immortals. Yeah. I mean, that is going to pack a punch, even with the charge lots coming in right now.
Yeah, the charge, obviously, I really like having charge for this fight, and the Archon definitely adds a bit of that tankiness to this army as well. Trap's going to start backing away, of course. Force fields will help for a few moments. Now MaNa will blink in aggressively. Trap can still blink out himself, and he has the Warp Prism and Micro here as well, so he can keep the Immortals alive, doing a very good job of that so far. And as soon as those Zealots go down, the 4 Immortals are going to shred those Stalkers. And these Stalkers just aren't going to last very long. Yeah, good call. Because that Archon needed a bit of healing up, otherwise it was about to go down. And it's a huge part of MaNa's army. Being able to keep that alive may just stop Trap from coming back in, as that's a great stasis ward. But unfortunately, the Oracle does not see the incoming Dark Shrine.
That could be a problem. MaNa did finally get a Robo, though he hasn't really had time to use it. But does he have an Observer? Is he going to think about this? A couple probes do end up going down to the Oracle, which is always nice, as well as additional scouting, getting the real read on what Trap is continuing to commit to. Trap respecting MaNa, that was it's about as good of an engagement as would have expected from MaNa, and he now has a couple more Archons, a couple more Zealots, but it still looks like Trap is in favor here, especially with the DTs. He actually has an Observer of his own, scouting no Observer, and he's going straight for the Robo. Even if MaNa were to win the battle on the left side, which he kind of is doing, he's not getting an Observer. He doesn't realize what's going down. Oh, he builds 2 Robos. I think it is natural, desperately, to bring an Observer into play. Since he won that fight, he knows that he might have a chance to win if he doesn't take so much probe damage, but he's already taken an entire mineral line's worth of damage, now a second mineral line. Oh no, not like this.
This is really, really awful, as you do see the DTs are now going to start spreading around. I mean, you can just kill so much here from Trap, and then obviously you can come with another army a little bit further down the line. Those 3 Archons were starting to win the fight from MaNa, so again, he's probably looking at this. He's like, oh my god, finally, I'm getting back into this. I made it happen. And then he goes and he's like, no, the DTs. 16 workers down. It's not just 16 workers killed. Look at all these probes not currently mining. MaNa basically has no current income. These are all of his probes. 25 probes on these minerals out of 27 workers in the game for him. That's everything. So he was not mining at all during this. And obviously, Trap is just at home, building up. And at this point, obviously, Trap will be able to add Archons in for the next round. Finally, the Oracle's back here, able to drop a Revelation, but, even dropping Revelations is slow, and oh my goodness, everything is unpowered in the main base. Yeah,
that was, I guess, intentional by Trap there. I mean, the Revelation was available with the Observer. That Oracle just looked absolutely useless, despite being available. He's gonna that's the time where you wish the patch had already hit, right? For like the lower energy cost.
Yeah.
Gosh, that was absolutely brutal. MaNa now with 2 robos, of course, that he can't really afford to use, and basically just an all-in status, even though they're both in the same Nexus count. And hey, I guess they're kind of mining out from their main base, so 23 probes and eventually be okay. It's definitely not okay now. And Trap has added on like 40 more supply, 20 of that in the army. So MaNa is really gonna have to make something magic. Nope, not even gonna try. GG, well played. Trap with the 3-0. The dirty, dirty DT move, man.
It's such a shame as well because it's MaNa's like so close to seeing the DTs, the Dark Shrine, and if he sees that, maybe the Oracle comes back home. Obviously, you built an Observer that much faster. Obviously, a Robo doesn't get sniped, and then maybe you actually win that fight at the front, or maybe Trap doesn't push up as heavily, right? But if you're able to win the fight at the front, then it's 2 base and 2 base. You're looking okay. This really felt like a series where MaNa was just small differences here or there could have made an entirely different result, right? Adept's first game, slightly better hold. Game 2, third map, yes, he made some mistakes as well, but even if he just sees the DTs and he can deal with the DTs properly, maybe we're talking about a different result once again. So such a it's a 3-0 that feels like maybe we should have at least had MaNa take a map or so along the way, right? Because while it didn't look like he had a lot of chances, it feels like he shouldn't have lost all these games the way he did. Very frustrating series for MaNa, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. But the fantastic news for all you TeamLiquid fans and MaNa fans is that this was the upper bracket.
Yeah.
So, yeah, another chance down in the lower bracket. Although, I mean, there's still a lot of really good players in the lower bracket. Yeah. It doesn't really get easier from here, that's for sure. But all right, first series done. Next up,
We stand as one. Are